lots of people have recognized, World War II. World War II has led to this. That generation was so radically scarred by what took place over those, well, depending on which nation you're in, 4 to 8 years. There was so much death, so much destruction, and so many people that as a result were driven from having any meaningful Christian worldview, that you just start seeing, most people look at the 60s. Now, the 60s couldn't have happened without the 40s. The 60s was the first step. And then you see, like I said, you start off, then jogging, then running, and then and that's where we are now. But there were so many things, so much that has had to come together. Somebody on Twitter was just asked, and a lot of people have mentioned this, if it had not been for the advent of medical capacity so as to provide for quote-unquote birth control, in the sense of removing from sexuality anything that has to do with recognizing the need for commitment between a man and a woman because of the responsibility they bear in bringing forth life, this could never have happened. But remember, when was it? About 3 years ago, there was a... Who was it? I think for some reason I think it had something to do with Campolo, I think. But I remember seeing a video about 3 years ago, and I remember mentioning it because I saw it in here, where you had these homosexuals, all these homosexuals there, and they're just talking honestly about the fact that the reason they love homosexual sex because they don't have to worry about having kids. It's great. We don't have to worry about pregnancy, because pregnancy is a horrible thing. Remember when Barack Obama said, I try to teach my girls morals, but if they slip and fall, they shouldn't be punished with a child. Remember that? Children are a punishment. And then you see what happens when you have an entire culture where motherhood and fatherhood become disconnected from one another. Remember in Matthew 19, he will leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife. The idea is that father and mother are still together. There is something vitally important about a son seeing how his father relates to his mother and seeing how his mother relates to his father. And when that's broken, people miss it. And they know they miss it, and they feel that. They feel that brokenness. They feel that something's been taken from them. And we have an entire culture now in the United States amongst you have amongst blacks in our culture, and this is something that black Christians talk about all the time. Well, meaningful black Christians, not cultural black Christians. There is a difference. You all know that. Cultural black Christianity, which is basically a political movement, not a religious movement, is completely different than the people who are actually serious about the Bible and the gospel and things like that. They're the ones, the Vody Balcombs out there that they get to preach on this, and us pasty white guys, we say anything about it, we're automatically bad, evil, and everything else. But I saw a horrific article this morning about a 14-year-old being charged with murder for the rape and then burning of a 16-year-old girl. He's 14. He's 14. Yes, he's black. She was black. And the vast majority of children born in the black community do not have a father. And you see the horrific behavior of these young men. And we dismiss it because they're kids, and nobody grows up now till they're 30. In Jesus' day, you became a man at 13. Now it's 30. But we hardly even talk about it. You know, you just mention, oh yeah, well, you don't want to go to Chicago, don't want to be after dark, you know. It all goes back to the same stuff. It all goes back to the dehumanization and the resultant culture of death. It has to do with disconnecting husband and wife, the commitment that is theirs, the no-fault divorce stuff of the 70s. Up till then, we had this idea that there was actually a commitment there, that it was a binding commitment, that there had to be a reason for this, that all the rest of it, that's, you know, throw that out. Sexuality just becomes something that's centered upon my own self-gratification. It has nothing to do with commitment, long-term life commitment any longer. And the family structure falls apart. You don't have those examples anymore. And it's all part of dehumanization. These people, they've been dehumanized. They have no respect for human life, no concept of a creator. And that's why I said what we see going on is this absolute dogma of autonomy. I get to define who I am. I get to do what every man does, what's right in his own eyes. That's where we are right now. That's what we're facing. And so it's all connected together. And we are seeing how it's connected together with far more clarity than we ever have before. Once it just all starts coming apart, you really are given a vantage point to be able to look back and say, oh, well, this is why it fell apart. This is why it fell apart. I preached on Hebrews 13:4, marriage to be held in honor among all, and the marriage bed is to be undefiled. For fornicators and adulterers, God will judge. There was a day when it was well known that in this country, judges realized that there was a higher authority than they themselves, and that they wanted to reflect that higher authority. And the last phrase here, kranai hatheos, God will judge. There is a basic, fundamental, foundational issue in the New Testament that God must judge. There must be judgment. There must be a day when justice is done. There must be a day when evil is punished and good is